Hello and welcome to a new video. This is for pre-algebra using the Math UC curriculum. This is lesson 22, which is about the greatest common factor. What is a greatest common factor? You may be asking, and I'll tell you. What we do is we take two or more numbers, we look at them and we say, what is the biggest number that I can divide into both of them? That word factor has to do with, factors of something are things that multiply together to get what we have. So if I look at these numbers like 18, the factors of 18 are things that multiply together to get 18. So whenever I'm given something like 18 and 16 and asked, what's the greatest common factor? Greatest here doesn't mean like coolest or whatever the kids say these days to denote, awesomeness. It means the largest. So the largest number that divides into both. So we can have common factors that we can come up with. They may not be the biggest number. We want in these problems the biggest number they have in common that you can divide by. So there's kind of two approaches, just like there was in lesson 21, that we typically take for this. And they're actually like super similar because the first approach is to make a list of factors. It's really easy to get confused between the two concepts. They both have three words. They both have common in them. And your numbers are going to look really similar. On any two pairs of numbers, we could either be trying to find the least common multiple or the greatest common factor. So make sure you're paying attention. Least common multiple, you're going to have something that is as big as or bigger than your numbers. And for greatest common factor, we're most likely going to have something smaller than our numbers. Okay, so whenever we make, on example 1 here, our list of factors, I'm going to write down 18 and 16. I'm going to say, okay, what multiplies to get 18? There's kind of two ways to do this. You could write them in pairs or you could write them in order. So writing them in pairs would be to say, actually either way, I think writing them least to greatest is helpful. But if we think of them in pairs, we could say, well, 1 goes with 18. So 1 is the smallest number that divides in. 18 is the biggest number that divides in. And just kind of put them on opposite sides. Then if we keep going with that, if now we do 2, then that's the thing that goes with 2 is going to be the next biggest factor on the other side. So 2 and 9, we'd put 2 and 9. And then 3 goes in and 6 goes in. And actually that's it because 4 doesn't go in. And 5 doesn't go in. And that is all the numbers that are in between. So the other way would be to say, I'm just going to say, does 1 go in? Yes. Does 2 go in? Yes. Does 3 go in? No. Does 4 go in? Yes. Does 5 go in? No. Does 6 go in? No. 7? No. I feel like this way may take a little bit longer. I really like doing it in pairs because you end up thinking about less numbers, right? Because every time you find something that works over here, every time you find something that works on this side, like 1, you also figure out what works on this side, 16. And so the rest of the numbers we're going to pick have to be in between 1 and 16. So we do 2 and 8, and then the rest of our factors have to be between 2 and 8. So we are just making a smaller and smaller group of numbers that it can be. So looking at these two lists, what's the biggest number that are in both lists? And that would be the number 2. So the largest number that we can put into 18 and 16 evenly, the largest whole number, is 2. So that's our answer. That's how we would do it with a list. Let's do another one. So find the GCF of the two numbers by making a list again. So 24 and 30. Now 24 I think has a lot of factors. So 1 and 24... 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. If I could say one of the things that you can do to help your math skills the most for the next little bit amount of time, like something that will help you so much, would be to be able to list factors like this, to be able to take numbers and just break them down by what multiplies together to get them, because it's something that we end up using a lot in math, and it's similar to multiplication tables, but it's kind of a backwards way of thinking of multiplication tables. So if you just spent like 5 or 10 minutes a day going, hey, mom, dad, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, other person, friend, give me a number and we're gonna see what all of the factors are. That can be a really helpful exercise. Okay, 30 has fewer, so that's nice. 1 and 30. And don't just stop whenever you come up with a factor because it may not be the greatest common factor. 2 and 15, 3 and... I was about to mess this up. 3 and 10, and then 5 and 6. I was about to say 3 and 6 or something. 3 and 5, and I was like, wait. Okay, so the biggest number that goes into both of these is 6. So yes, 2 goes in, yes, 3 goes in, but the biggest number that goes in is 6. And another way of doing this, like if you're not going to make a full-on like list of factors like this and you're just trying to think in your head, okay, what goes into both of these? When you're going through, if you're going through and saying, okay, well, 1 goes in, 2 goes in, 3 goes in. At the point where 2 and 3 go in, that also means 6 goes in. Okay, so there's this cool thing we can do to help us figure out factors by saying what goes in and how do I combine those numbers to see what else goes in. Anywho, let's look at how to do this with a factor tree. We talked about factor trees last lesson. So factor trees are where you just start by splitting up the number into two things that multiply together. It doesn't matter which two you used. You just can't use 1 and that number because it doesn't help us actually build our tree. So I picked 4 and 7, and then I can do 2 and 2. 42 we're going to split up as well. What our end goal here is going to be is a little bit different than least common multiple though, because for least common multiple, we wanted to basically write down everything that they both had. The greatest common factor, we're just writing down what they have in common. So in this case, they have a 2 in common. Doesn't matter which one of these two 2s we think of, but they have a 2 in common. They also have a 7 in common, but that's it. So 2 times 7 is 14. They have a 14 in common, and that's the greatest common factor. We could have done this by making a list, okay? So it probably would have been pretty... It also, by the way, use the fact that these numbers are even. If two numbers are even, they have to both be divisible by 2. And then from there, you can try to think, okay, is there anything else that I know of that goes into these two numbers? And we also can use the idea of if you divide them both by 2, I feel like this is really scattered. If you divide them both by 2, if they are then even again, then they divide by 2 again. So they really are divisible by 4. There's all these cool like tricks. I love this part of math, and probably should have been a clue that I was a math person before. Like it took me a while to realize that. Like it was like yesterday that I realized I was a math person. That's a joke. But what was I talking about? I really like seeing how numbers multiply together and combine together to get things, was the point of that. Okay, example 4, another factor tree. So 12, we could split up either 2 and 6 or 3 and 4. It doesn't matter which one you pick. And then 6 splits up into 2 and 3. 48 splits up, we could do 6 and 8, and then 2 and 3. This is a big tree, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. Remember, we're only looking at our prime numbers at the end, just like with least common multiple. We're looking for what they have in common. So we have a 2 here and a 2 here, a 2 here and a 2 here. It didn't matter which 2s I picked on 48, by the way. This 3 could go with this 3. And so I'm out of numbers on 12. So what that means is that my greatest common factor is 2 times 2 times 3, which is 12. So depending on your mental math skills and just like how much you enjoy this and different things like that, how much it's making sense to you, you may be able to do this without really making a list or a factor tree, because you may be able to look at this and go, okay, I know that this and this and this go into it, and it may have been obvious to you that 12 was the greatest common factor because you knew that 12 went into 48. I don't know that that is really a normal thing to be good at in pre-algebra. Like, I don't think that those number sense skills are usually that that advanced at this level. So if this is coming really naturally for you, then that's awesome. If you're like, okay, I have to make the factor tree or the list, or it takes me a while, I'm saying that's normal. You'll get better at it. It'll be fine. You can do it. All sorts of encouraging words like that. So that's finding the greatest common factor. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, which I'm sure you have, so then you won't need to. You can tell you're subscribed, by the way. If you look at the button and it says subscribe, you're not subscribed. So you press the button and then it says subscribed, and then you don't press the button again because you're already subscribed. Pretty cool how that works, right? You learn something new every day. So I will see you guys in another video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.